Hello everyone. So this is a presentation of the information that's contained in my most recent letter, and this is for parents and for pupils, lots of information about September. There will be more information coming out, and our full risk assessment will be put on the website very shortly, so you'll be able to see the full risk assessment for September and understand a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to make sure everybody's safe in September when they all return. So I'm going to start with the most important date for you, which is that years 1 to 6 will be back on the 7th of September. Our term does start before that, but we, as we had scheduled already, we had 3 inset days scheduled for the week before, so only teachers will be attending those. So start of term for all year groups from 1 to 6 is the 7th of September. For reception, as usual, they start about a week and a half to 2 weeks later than the other children, and that's to allow us to have our home visits. It's a little bit shorter than usual this year, the period, because many of the home visits are taking place by Zoom, and some of them in St Anne's Gardens. So reception class will start on the 16th of September, that's a Wednesday. So, first of all, here are some of the new procedures that we will be undertaking in September. This one's not new at all, actually. At the core of all our procedures will be the continuation of regular hand washing and good hygiene, especially in relation to coughing and sneezing. I'll just move myself out of the way. There we are. So we're going to be carrying on helping the children to understand the importance of good hygiene, supporting them, making sure they've got enough tissues and whatever they need, and that these are disposed of properly, and that the hand washing takes place very, very regularly. We'll be creating new protective bubbles. So the children have been in bubbles before, but those won't be the same in September, because the bubbles in September will be one class size. So each class will form a bubble, and the aim is that the children in each bubble, they won't interact with children from other bubbles throughout the school day. So that's playtime and lunchtime. They won't be interacting with other children from other classes. Morning and lunch playtimes will be staggered. So some playtimes will take place in St Anne's Gardens. That's usually going to be the longer playtimes around lunch. And that's to ensure that we've got enough space to allow all the children to have their playtime, and that we can still allow reception to have some learning time outside. Children will eat lunch in their classrooms for at least the first 3 weeks. So that is until we can work out whether we can rotor in lunchtimes in the hall or in some other communal space. But we can't, we have 2 classes who will be located in the halls to ensure that we have adequate space. And so we won't be able to have lunchtimes in there to start with. So for the first 3 weeks, and we'll keep you informed as to how our plans are changing on that. So the requirement for children to maintain strict social distancing between each other inside classrooms has been removed. But there is a requirement for children to try and maintain a distance from staff as far as is possible. So staff will be trying to maintain the 1 metre plus mitigation distancing at all times. It won't always be possible, and the staff understand that, and within that each member of staff has their own risk assessment as to how close to children they can get. So there will always be somebody to help a child who's hurt themselves, and to take care of a child who's unhappy or upset at closer quarters if necessary. But really, the default setting will be that teachers and adults working with children maintain a distance. But the children don't have to. So in most classes, desks will be positioned in rows, and the children will be facing one way. And that's obviously to mitigate the risk from children breathing directly at each other or sneezing or coughing on each other. So children will be facing the front, and that's not in the very younger years, but that will be certainly from year 2 upwards, and in certain lessons for year 1. To start with, the children won't change for PE lessons, and the PE lessons will all be held outside, mostly in St Anne's Gardens, occasionally in the playground. So please send your child into school each day wearing clothes suitable for active pursuits. Children will be allocated books and stationery which will not be shared with others. Shared use of resources in bubbles will be kept to a minimum, and any resources shared between bubbles will require meticulous cleaning. So obviously, if resources have to be shared between classes, we'll either give them a quarantine period or a very thorough clean, or possibly both, depending on the type of resource. But within the class, we will try and keep the sharing of resources to a minimum as well. Unfortunately, we won't be able to invite any parents onto the school site. So you should please continue to use the office email address for communication, or give us a ring on the office number. And reception parents will be the exception to this, because obviously while you're settling your children in reception, you may need to come into the class, and that could be supportive to some children. But we will manage this carefully so that it's in one exit and back out of the same, and not when other children or bubbles are around. We will ask any parents entering the building to wash their hands very thoroughly. Timetabling will ensure that there'll be a minimal number of staff in contact with each bubble through the course of the week. Where possible, staff will work in a maximum of 2 bubbles. So we have worked very carefully on our timetable to ensure that Year 5 and 6 will be working together with staff only going between those 2 classes, Year 3 and 4, and then Year 1 and 2 initially possibly bringing reception into that Year 1-2 bubble as well, with staff working across the classes, but the children won't move, so the children will stay within their class bubble and play on their own with their class as much as possible. That will be the aim. Drop-off and pick-up times will be staggered, so most cohorts will be coming in their own drop-off and pick-up time. In order to make this convenient for parents, we've tried to keep these very small, the windows of drop-off, and because I know that obviously if you have more than one sibling, it could be inconvenient to have to wait a long time. So we've kept the windows of drop-off very small, so please do arrive within your child's allocated window. Some pairs of bubbles, for example 5 and 6, have a slight overlap in their drop-off time. We've noticed that this term it has been possible for children and parents to maintain a social distance when dropping off. So we think that will work with the 2 bubbles having a slight overlap in their drop-off time. There is also a likelihood that from September we will be able to close Great Windmill Street in the area directly around the entrance of the school, which will enable queuing and a much safer drop-off environment for parents. Play Club, Culture Club and Breakfast Club won't be in operation to start with, not when we initially return, but we do want to reinstate Play Club as quickly as possible because we recognise the challenges that working parents have faced during the COVID closure. So we hope that we can reinstate it by week 3, perhaps towards the end of that week, from 3:30 to 5:30. There might be slight changes to the offer and costs. We may have to have smaller bubbles. We may have to keep the pairs of year groups together and no more than that. So that's what we'll be working on in the first few weeks, and we hope that we will be able to reinstate that as soon as possible. Breakfast Club it will not be reinstated for the first half term, and we will let you know if there are any changes to that. The term dates for 2020-21 can be found on our website. They haven't changed. Our inset days, as I've mentioned, will be the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of September. For the first half of term, which is 7 weeks, we will close at 1 p.m. on Friday afternoons. This is a temporary measure, and I will talk a bit more about that in a minute. Our school risk assessment is currently being finalised, and we'll be working in conjunction with Westminster Health and Safety team to ensure that this is thorough, provides a safe environment for our community to return in September. And this is the list of classrooms for different classes. So reception class will be in their usual classroom on the ground floor. The Year 1 bubble will be based in the 1st floor classroom above the office, which was Year 2, and it will now be Year 1. But in the afternoons, this bubble will be, the whole class will be going to play and learn through play in St Anne's Church Hall and using the gardens outside. The Year 2 bubble will be going to the 2nd floor classroom above the office, which was Year 3. And the Year 3 bubble will be in the second floor classroom above the White Hall, which was Year 5. The Year 4 bubble is going to be based in the BB Hall. Now, we've already set that one up as a classroom and we've been using it this term. It's worked really well. We won't be able to have assemblies in there for some time or do PE inside due to our health and safety risk assessment. So it works perfectly as a classroom, and we'll obviously reassess that on a term-by-term basis. The Year 5 bubble will be based in the second floor classroom above the White Hall, which was Year 4, and the Year 6 bubble will be based in the White Hall, and they will have exclusive use of the computer room. Because we have the classes based there, it does limit our lunchtime offer, and as I said, for the first 3 weeks at least, we'll be having lunches in our classrooms, which will be provided by the catering team. The good news about this, of course, is that we have really minimised the use of additional spaces, and we've managed to keep the children in school, which is the safest and most useful place to have them. This is one of the changes that we'll be making next September. We would like all parents to purchase a school lunch each day and not send their child in with a packed lunch. There's 2 reasons for this. The first is that it reduces infection routes in and out of school. So we know that our catering team can prepare very hygienically. They wear full PPE at the moment, and we know that they can limit any kind of transference by providing food in school, whereas if we're having lots of packed lunches coming in and out every day, that is obviously an infection route. At the moment, that's what we've had to do because we were slightly limited in our catering team, but they will be back in full force in September, and we think this is the safest way, is by all children having a school lunch. The second reason, of course, for that is that it supports our school budget. We've lost an awful lot of income from children not being here in the summer term and not taking school meals, and we really need to replace that because as a government institution we weren't able to furlough any staff. In fact, we couldn't have furloughed any staff because we needed them to keep the school open the whole time. So we really ask parents to support us in this. If you have any concerns about your child's dietary requirements or their food habits, please contact Amy. She's on chef@sohoparish.co.uk. We can accommodate all dietary requirements, and we can support children who might be reluctant to try certain things, or you might be concerned about their eating. So please do call Amy or email Amy to set up a phone meeting to discuss that. And if you have any financial concerns, we know this has been difficult for some parents. Many families have been hit financially by the COVID crisis. So if you are struggling at all, if you will struggle at all, please contact me. And the cost, the government had agreed originally for the cost to go up. It hasn't gone up in a number of years. We were going to put our cost of school lunch up to £2.60 this term. But due to the fact that we haven't been able to notify parents and that our offer may be slightly limited by the fact that we're serving children in classrooms, we will freeze that cost at £2.30 until half term. So please do contact me with any queries about that. And let me move myself up a little bit so you can see this one. We have all the classes here, and they all have different drop-off and collection times. Now, I know myself, having 3 children of primary age, how inconvenient it is to be dropping your children off at different times. So we have tried to keep those windows very close together so that you're not hanging around a lot outside of school, which obviously is not COVID secure either. So Year 5 and 6 will come in at almost the same time. They're slightly staggered. Year 6 at 8:45 to 8:55, Year 5 at 8:50 to 9 o'clock, both coming in by the gate on Great Windmill Street. We ask you to really respect those windows and bring your child in exactly at that time. There is a small overlap between those cohorts, but we think that there's enough space outside the school that people can queue sensibly and with enough distance between them. And we are also fortunate that the school, Great Windmill Street, is becoming a school street after a long campaign, and so that means it will be closing at the time your children are arriving at school, and it will be pedestrianised, which makes it a lot easier to drop them off, and the same at collection time as well. Year 5 and 6 will be collected at 3:15 to 3:25 and 3:20 to 3:30 for Year 5. And again, that's from the gate on Great Windmill Street, so the normal gate for those two classes. Year 4 are going to come in through the fire escape. That's because they're coming into the BB Hall, so they'll be coming directly to their classroom. So there'll be somebody waiting on the fire escape door. It's just next to the red door, to the right of the red door as you're looking at the school. And there'll be someone waiting there to support your children into class. That's from 9 to 9:10, that window. They will also leave by the fire escape from 3:20 to 3:30. Year 3 will be coming in by the red door, 9 to 9:10. And they'll be leaving by the red door, that's the red door on Archer Street, 3:20 to 3:30. James will call their class and they will come down to you when you arrive, so please ring the doorbell. Year 2 will also be going by the red door. They'll be coming in between 8:45 and 8:55, please, and they'll be leaving 3:10 to 3:20, again from the red door. For the first week, we don't have reception in, so we would invite Year 2 to come to the Great Windmill Street gate at 9 o'clock, as they normally would, just for that first week, and that is so that they can be met by their teacher. Lisa will come to the playground and wait for them, and then she'll take them all up to their classroom because they might not be familiar with where they're going. We don't want anyone to get lost in their first week. We want to make sure that they're really happy with that transition. So for the first week, please come to the Great Windmill Street gate between 9 and 9:10. And that's the same for Year 1. For the first week, please come to the Great Windmill Street gate from between 9 and 9:10. And after that, it will be 8:50 to 9 o'clock for you at the red door. And again, children will make their way up to the class from there. It's much closer to the classroom. And then they'll be leaving, Year 1 will be leaving at 3:10, between 3:10 and 3:20 from St Anne's Gardens, and we'll let you know more about exactly where to collect your child from in September. Reception, when they start, will be coming 9 o'clock to 9:10 on the gate at Great Windmill Street, and they'll be leaving 3:10 to 3:20, again from the Great Gate at Great Windmill Street. We've noticed as we've gone on this term that children actually do come in very quickly, and that we've been able to close the windows a little bit. We started off with 15 minutes for children to come in, and we can certainly now do it within 10 minutes, but we do ask you to be very prompt. Try not to overlap with other classes, because obviously we're trying to keep the bubbles separate. Thank you. As soon as we can change this back to normal, we will. So this is the other big change for September, but it is only a temporary one. For the first 7 weeks, up until half term, we will be closing at 1 p.m. on a Friday. Now, I do stress this is only temporary, and we intend to return back to normal after half term. We think that in order to provide teaching staff with their statutory planning, preparation and assessment time, the best thing to do is to provide everyone with it at the same time. This reduces the need for additional staff to be brought in from other classes or across the school or even from the supply agency, which obviously compromises the health and safety of the children, which we don't want to do. During the term, staff members who've been shielding will also be completing phased returns. So by the end of that half term, everybody will be phased back in, and we will have a larger staff than we'll be starting with. In addition, for the first 7 weeks, the senior leadership team will be working in classes to support teachers with that very crucial initial assessment. So finding out how children have got on while they've been away, what progress they've made, and whether they have any gaps from the previous year's curriculum that we need to work on. So there won't be any spare capacity to cover staff for that statutory time. So the most practical thing for us to do was to effect a temporary closure. As I say, once again, this is for the first 7 weeks, and we intend to return to normal after half term. Key worker and vulnerable children will be accommodated on the Friday afternoon until 3:15 p.m. And that provision will be run by the teaching assistants. And if you were already in the key worker and vulnerable provision during the period of closure, you will still be entitled to attend. If you believe that you are entitled to attend that provision but haven't previously signed up, please contact James on the office email, office@sohoparish.co.uk. And finally, all of this sounds very complicated and very different, but at the the essence of the school will still be unchanged. Everything will still be the same. Your teachers will be the same, your children will be the same, and the learning will be the same. And we really can't wait to welcome Soho Parish back. It's time to get our community back together in September. Thank you.